Well, I'm here this afternoon with Georgia Lagadinos, who was the costume designer for the Oxford Street Players from 2011 to 2014. So she did 4 productions with us: Love's Labor's Lost in 2011, Richard III in 2012, our 20th anniversary celebration, Antony and Cleopatra, in 2013.
How did I get there? My daughter was a Leslie, it had gone to Leslie, and I heard of Annie Pluto, and I always wanted to work for Annie Pluto. I do costume design for private boarding schools and contracted everywhere. But my summer gig was a theater arts camp for little kids in Brookline. And one day I had a student there, Zafia, came up to me and we were talking, and she told me that her mother does theater. And I go, oh, who's your mother? And she said, Annie Pluto. Fast forward, I just loved it instantly. It showed me Shakespeare. I had never really studied Shakespeare, but the inspiration that Annie gave me to be able to research and to costume and to know the periods. And I even was trying to bring my people in to watch it. But, you know, if you don't understand Shakespeare, you don't understand Shakespeare, no matter how much you read it or anyway. So fast forward, I couldn't wait for the next season. Let's put it that way. So then the next season was, we said Richard.
Richard III, yes.
And to backtrack a little bit, I just fell in love with the kids. They were just so mature. There's just something with theater kids, especially Shakespeare. It's just something you can't explain. The connection you get, and me being older and trying to understand, but the bond of the theater is what made it. And the fact that I cared enough about what they would look like and how I would never put somebody in a costume that they didn't feel comfortable in. You form these bonds, and you know, and then it's over, you crash a little bit, but then you wait for the next year. So I was very grateful that I could come back for the 4 seasons. But I always talk about how brilliant you are and the knowledge in your head. You just amaze me.
Well, thank you. That's very kind.
It is so true.
Let's talk about your costumes. So Love's Labor's Lost, we had the King of Navarre and Barone. And my favorite costume was when they did that Russian dance. That dance itself was like one of my favorite theater pieces.
Yeah, that was amazing.
Those beards were like 3 feet long, and eating them by the end because they would get stuck in their mouth.
On their face, and then they had to do the squatting and the jumping and whatever that traditional dance. I remember and they were dying because it was so hot. And then the hats, do you remember? I think the Russian hats.
They were great.
They would fall off.
Oh,
that was like the best. And that's, like I said, when I bonded with that group of kids, that students, they weren't kids, they were young adults. But that really made the difference, that I said, this is something that I can do, and you know, it worked for you as the costumer. I love watching the rehearsals and see how it all blends together. I don't find it myself conventional. I don't just, like I said, take their measurements and find something. You know, I have to make sure it works.
And you do a great job with that.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Then Richard III, that you made those medieval hats called hennin.
There's the hennin, and then the butterfly hennin.
The veil that comes out like
with the wire, and then the veil in the back when there were ghosts, remember? And then all the hats for Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Woodville was the queen. You made her a pillbox, but it was higher. It was to the period.
I forget the characters.
There's Anne, who marries Richard. She had that cone, the veil flying off of it. And then the hennin was worn by Margaret Anjou, the ghost. So she had the one with the with the butterflies.
Queen and then Elizabeth. There was a smaller one that you have to put a cap to cover your hair, and then the other piece
That
on
was worn by Amanda, who played Richard's mother. So that was an older woman
an
wore
older
that,
one, because you had to
just
cover
nude almost, that her hair was covered.
his
And
hair.
then Elizabeth Woodville had the other piece.
Those were beautiful, and you know, it had to match their dresses as well. Then Richard, I had to put the hump on his shoulder. I felt so bad for him because that was hot. It was hot with those lights. Extra padding on one side and making sure every night they would take it off and let it just dry. It's true. And then you had a lot of the actresses that played male parts too.
Yeah.
I just love doing that, and everything about it. Like I said, that was a really good experience as well, because you just bond with, and they just help you out, and they inspire you even more for the designing part of it too. And you just want everything realistic and detail oriented. I guess I'm very detailed.
And there was another hat. It was worn by Clarence's daughter, Princess
Oh,
Margaret. She had a little green hennin. That
yeah,
was a great costume.
those hats, and I still have them somewhere. I know I never used them again.
Well, if I ever do Richard II thing, I'll be calling you for those hennins and those cone-headed, princess costume dresses. I mean, hats.
And then, you make them and you transform your kitchen or whatever, like this is my workspace, and it's just amazing.
Right. It is amazing because we don't have a designated costume shop.
No.
So I remember I remember every time that people, whoever the designer was, if there was somebody who could be at school during the day, and a couple of times Marwa was able to do that before she had a baby, and she would come, she would sew in my office. That was what she did that
Yeah,
day because her
yeah.
other job was another day. So she sewed in the office. And that was always hard because the office was on the third floor, right, of, Mellon. And not that it was a long walk, but
No.
in the cold, if it
It-
was crappy weather, to bring the costumes to
And
Marin Theater, yeah, it was a bit of a
then you
a
could hide them
journey.
a little bit in that closet. There's a closet on the side, to store
Right.
them because you wanted them to be safe. But that theater costume shop closet is like a little fantasy, it's just magical. And
Yeah.
it's magical because everything has such precision to it, and pieces, and of course it's in your head too, because the inventory that what you have.
Yeah, it's
And,
true. I do know. Yeah.
yeah, and after you dry clean them and you know exactly what's in the bags, I mean, that really helps. We work so well together. That's what I loved about it, because we were two women working together to make this show.
It was great. Oh, I loved working with you. We need to talk about Antony and Cleopatra. Oh, please. The 20th anniversary, but we built a ship that went on stage right. It went 4 rows into the auditorium. They had to take out 4 rows of seats on the house right sides, the stage left.
That was incredible. Okay, so I have inventory, but I also create. So people give me curtains. People give me because they know nothing is trash for me. This woman gave me her drapes from her house, and I created half the costumes because they had the grommets. One night I had to make, forgive me, I don't remember the characters' names, but Cleopatra's servant, I made her costume out of thick Christmas ribbon and whatever I had at home with tapestry fabrics to make her look like this Egyptian royalty you would never have known. And then I discovered how to make the Egyptian head scarf pieces. And that just liberated me because I, realized how I could make the Egyptian head pieces to put it around your forehead and fold it over, bobby pin it, and it could stay. That was a little physical too, because there's a lot of, moving.
Right, and there were some fights in that show too.
And then how I made Cleopatra's crown, which was the phoenix.
Yes, it's her Isis crown, right?
Sure.
That she's Isis.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it wasn't the ISIS that you see on TV.
No, not
It was,
the goddess Isis.
yeah, the goddess. And that I just so happened to have the base that was from the 50s, a gold, a hat with gold feathers on it that started the base. And then I built the bird and the everything.
That
And
was gorgeous. In her blue dress that she
yes,
dies in. That
she
was
died and beautiful. That was the magnificent show. That visually, like the Roman soldiers, I remember how I made their costumes. Like I said, they had, you know, these curtains that I had that had beautiful hemming that I
yeah.
used for the strapping and the, it was just unbelievable. Like that's how I work, you know. Um, and I love to do one of a kind pieces, I think. Yeah, although I have to do that in my other shows with musicals and but no, but you definitely gave me a whole outlook and a whole inspiration to follow Shakespeare and to after that I would go every year to Shakespeare on the Common. So for your students, the way that I'm so inspired by them, that the way they just love it and breathe it. And that to me, we all work together. That's how I am. Like I try to work together.
You're great to work with. Like, and you're talented. You do make one of a kind pieces. And the goddess crown, the Roman soldiers, and they were purple. I did all that research about what did Roman soldiers do. They wore leather underpants to war. Those Roman helmets, that was killer.
Yeah,
Because you
yeah.
have to buy those stupid ones at a party store, and then like, you know, with those brush,
The brush,
the
yeah.
brush, the like the horsehair nonsense that they had on them. I still have them in my
And it's so
office.
funny because that's where like a lot of the budget goes to too. It's when you have to purchase, you know, with
Yeah.
I have so much inventory and I can create things. And it just kills me that I, you know, obviously you can't create those because you don't have the time or the means.
No, who can buy? Yeah, those are hard to make.
I just thought of, okay, so now that you said that quickly, the draping was very important to me too, because how they used to drape things in those days. So you'll appreciate this, Annie. So there's a church in Rosendale, and they have all the icons, the Byzantine icons. So a couple of times I'd go to that church and I'd be studying how things draped and the colors back then, you know, even if it was the same time period or not, it didn't matter. It was just a whole feeling of it. Because she was royalty, all she wore was the diadem, the white strip of
Oh, fabric,
and pearls and
pearls, and
yeah,
jewels. Yes,
the
lots
little
of
crowns,
jewels.
that meant royalty, that little white and you know the irony of that, that was the hardest thing to stay on her head.
And then we had the soothsayer. We had her really be the goddess. Like
Yes,
she was Isis, and we had her in blue.
the blue, and then I had that collar. Yes,
She walked out of the painting because there were those three beautiful panels, which was Horus, Osiris, and then Isis. That's the mother, father, that's their trinity. And she would stand in front of it. I was hoping the audience got this. And that when she was predicting the future. And then the last show you did was the one that the students designed the set. It was supposed to be a book.
yeah, I remember.
And from medieval manuscripts. And that was As You Like It.
I remember just like that was a fun show.
Then we had decided that we would every other year do Shakespeare. And in the off years, my colleague Lieve Cummins would do a musical, 2015. Then in 2016, you couldn't join us. You had gotten other jobs, and then Lori Brabler came in and joined us then. But
that's I work like 3 other schools at the same time. I would love to be able to do it again. Like it's just, I love it. And you know, when we're in this world, this is our life. You know, this is our safe place, our happy place, and this is where, you know, we love, we belong. You know, there's no egos involved. It makes a difference in the world because you do become friends and you do keep that relationship because you've worked so, it's like the family that you build in the theater and you've worked so hard to make this production. And because we both care so much, you take it to that next level because you want it to succeed.
Right.
It's not just a job. I mean,
it's a calling to do this kind of work, especially in a school that doesn't have a designated theater department, that costume shop with 25 years worth of stuff. Mother saved, because when I was a kid, I said to her, I'm going to do theater. And
How directors from reading a script created on stage. Like, I can't even imagine doing that.
fun. See, that's
The vision,
it's the vision.
that makes the difference too. So it's definitely so collaborative. It's in your blood. It's what you love.
Theater's the most collaborative art.
And I'm just so grateful to be part of this team.
Well, it was fabulous working with you, and I hope we work again someday.